and welcome back to the Debrief, brought to you in partnership between British Rowing and Junior Rowing News. My name is Fergus Mainland. I host the End of the Island podcast, and I am delighted to be bringing you all of the action from the World Rowing Championships in Richizzi, along with an all-star lineup of Olympic gold medalist Mark Hunter, Paralympic gold medalist Erin Kennedy, and Olympic silver medalist Jess Eddy. We've had 18 crews racing out in Richizzi, 50 athletes taking part, and they are returning with 12 medals, 7 golds, 1 silver, and 4 bronze medals. They topped the medal table ahead of Italy and Romania. And I think of no better place to start than with our fantastic Paralympic crews. Erin, they are going from success to success. Obviously, we're gutted not to have you out there racing with them, but they are flying the flag phenomenally. With the PR3 mixed Cox 4 coming away with another gold medal, another world record, and along with that, coming away with a gold medal in the pairs as well for both pairs.
You know, we should be absolutely supporting these non-Paralympic events, and it's brilliant to kind of challenge the veteran athletes, give, you know, the 2 new athletes in the 4 an opportunity to kind of make their mark on the event in their own way as well. And I mean, I just got to have a big shout out to Ben Pritchard here. I think that's the best paced race I've seen him row. And he gets, and he admitted it himself, he gets really excited in the first half and then sort of, you know, leaves himself with maybe a bit to do. And it was such a mature race from him. Amazing to just watch him succeed after he's had a tough season, you know, ups and downs, and he's done so well. And that's his first world senior medal, and buzzing for him. Yeah,
Jess, a fantastic bronze there for Ben in the PR1 single. It was gold for Roman Polyansky of Ukraine, who rode through Giacomo Perini of Italy. So a little reverse of the European Championships there. But having seen Ben race at the Olympic Games last year, to see him now onto the medal podium ahead of the all-important qualification year next year for the Paralympic Games, it's a fantastic result for him.
Oh, I just echo Erin's words. It's a huge result, and I watched that and I was so pleased for him. He's so well liked. He's just been voted onto the World Rowing Athletes Commission, and that's a commission that's voted for by the athletes. So he's a really likable guy, and you know, to stand on the podium now and be there with a medal around his neck is a huge step on for him. To take out the Australian and to be actually that close to the gold and silver is a big step, and I think it'll give him a lot of confidence. He's really relatively new into the sport. You've got to think about that. And 2K in the para single is a long way. It's a long race. Exactly what Erin was saying. If you pace it better, which he looks like he has done at the highest moment right now at the world stage. So yeah, huge, massive result.
And Mark, I suppose it leaves the question of well, what's next for the likes of our PR3 mixed Cox 4? It's another world record for him, another gold medal. I suppose it's just keeping this flame burning for as long as it possibly can.
Yeah, and I think that's where that kind of internal kind of competition amongst them would be the thing that kind of they'll thrive on and probably use as motivation. Because I suppose when I don't always like to be that dominant for that long, but they've been dominant for so long in that particular event. Is how do you kind of keep that thirst for wanting more? I think they've got the right environment, the right people, and they seem to love what they do, love working together, and you know the results are paying dividends every time they go and compete.
Absolutely. And we've got plenty of medals to roll through. So what we'll do, we'll move on to the men's sculling, because it was actually Graham Thomas in the men's single scull, Erin, that capped off a brilliant World Championships, coming away with a bronze medal there in a race that was won by Ollie Zeidler of Germany. Redemption from disappointment in Munich for Ollie Zeidler. But what a fantastic note to end the World Championships on, and the first single scull medal for the men's single scull medal for Great Britain since 2017, I believe.
Yeah, it was a brilliant race. Again, I just thought he looked really relaxed. He looked really in control, and I think he's really built throughout the season. And I was just really pleased for him, to be honest. You know, he's not had a conventional career. I don't know that many of us probably look back on our careers and think, oh, that was straightforward. But, you know, I think Graham in particular has had to be so resilient and really just sort of focus on himself. And you know, what makes him good is he's a really tough cookie. And so I think he just showed it in that race. And it was a really, really tight field, and he just had to really kind of stick to his guns in the middle K, and it really paid off.
And Mark, I think it's worth noting that Great Britain didn't have a men's double racing, but probably one of the big headlines from the World Championships regatta was that the Sinkovic brothers of Croatia, the first time since 2010, they haven't come away from a major championships with a medal, beaten into fourth place by the likes of France and Australia.
Yeah, and I think they probably lost to the crew the event of the whole World Championships. I think that French double is out of this world. The way they row, the way they perform, and they're a class act. And you got to think about the Sinkovics. They've come back out the pair. They've been in the double. They're having fun with it. I'm sure they're going to get quicker over the next 2 years. And I think that we have to remember about these World Championships, they are quite late. So people may be in different kind of places in their season with regards to their speed. So I know it was kind of a shock that they won on the podium, but I do have confidence they'll be back there. And I think when they're on form and against that French double, I think that is going to be something very special.
Yeah, lots of exciting racing to come in the next year, which is, of course, a qualifying year for the Olympics. But Jess, for me, I think one of the standout performances for the British team was the men's quad coming away with what I think was a brilliant silver medal, less than a second behind gold medalist Poland. And I think it equals the best ever performance for a men's quad, which they had back at the 2014 World Championships. So I think it's brilliant to see them back up, really fighting out for those top couple of positions.
Yeah, and they won an incredible silver medal last year in Tokyo, and I think Olympic medal, they don't grow on trees, but everyone watched that race, I think, and there's quite a few crabs. It was a bit of a scrappy race and great silver medal, but still it was a bit scrappy. So to come here this year and actually really put themselves as one of the best crews in the world, the Polish quad were outstanding, and they just went out there and took on the race. I think the level-headedness and the confidence that the British men's quad showed in that race was spectacular, really. One of the medals of the entire championships for me. Seeing the disappointment of the Europeans coming back from a hard few races there, they got crab in their semi to come through and make it into the A final. So a boat class that's turned around a result and gone away and done these big training camps through the summer and put themselves on the podium.
Yeah, I'd also just like to say as well, I think, Paul Stannard has stepped up from, he's been running the quad and coaching the quad, and now he's obviously stepped up into kind of the head coach role. So he's also sort of managing this new role and was still the crew coach. And I think, a lot of credit goes to Stannard as well for kind of developing that crew and backing them, because you've got sort of two athletes who were in the Olympics and then sort of two new up and coming athletes. So it's a real sort of blend of, veteran, new, you've got the coach sort of building up and stepping into this new thing. And I just think it's really exciting for the next 2 years.
Just thinking of that, I'd like them to race as the Tokyo quad did, go out. If they can do that and stop the kind of trying to chase teams or chase other crews down, I think the event is theirs. I think they need to use that tactic that works so well in Tokyo for that quad that won a silver. And if this crew can use some of that fight off the blocks, then no one will touch them. They just need to put themselves in that position as early as possible.
I think just following on from that, Mark, we're in a brilliant position where the men sculling the whole squad, those who are racing in Rachitsi, but also those who are still at Caversham. It's got a huge depth to it, and we've seen sort of chopping and changing throughout the season, a couple of changes or so. We've still got selection to happen for a double as well. So the depth that's there is a really exciting prospect.
Yeah, and I think that goes across the team, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a minute with the men's four. The depth, I think, not just in sculling, but in sweep is kind of, I don't want to say back to old days, because they're kind of creating their own environment, but there is so much talent at the moment. It's so exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we'll do, we'll stick with sculling. We'll move on to the women's sculling team. And we'll start with the bronze medal, Erin, that was won by the women's quad. They were rowed through by the Netherlands in the dying stage, and no surprise, it was China that came out on top. But I think after a gold medal at the European Championships, then going up against arguably the best in the world, China, a fantastic result for this young quartet.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was brilliant to see sort of Jess Layden back in the boat, and I could see her doing the calls from the bows, and she's a phenomenal athlete. And so I'm just really pleased to see her back in the boat and sort of leading that crew. And then we've got, again, sort of this mix of like this new, exciting, up and coming athletes, sort of Henley Royal winners. And it's been a weird couple of years, you know. Some of these athletes have been waiting, knocking outside the door for an extra year because of the postponement of Tokyo. And so they've sort of come in with this real momentum. Georgie Brayshaw as well. Great athlete, and she's just been sort of like ready to go. And so yeah, I was really proud of them. I was gutted for them. They got rode over in those last dying stages, but they'll learn so much from it. And I think they really went out and took the race to China as well. That was how they needed to race it. And, you know, just give it your all and see what happens. And I think, again, this trajectory, having an exciting women's quad is just really exciting for next year.
Yeah, I'd say about that quad. Sorry, Fergus, but they said it yesterday on camera. 3 of them, that was their first World Championships, their first senior World Championships, and they've gone and medalled in a really, really high-class event. I mean, they're all high-class, but the Chinese quad were exceptional. So I think for Lucy, Georgie and Lola, the first time they put on the senior hoops and to stand on the podium, we're going to see big things from this quad.
And that's just what you touched on there, the pair of you regarding it. The gutsiness they race with, that is what I love to watch. And that was probably one of my favourite events to watch for the event, the way that they took it on with that inexperience that they have. And there was no fear. And I thought that was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, certainly. And I think talking about no fear, it was an awesome contest in the women's single scull as well. We had Hannah Scott representing Great Britain. She came away with a 5th place performance. Jess, it was won by Caroline Florian of the Netherlands. And it was silver for Emma Twigg of New Zealand, another athlete who's just been voted onto the Athlete Commission for World Rowing. And I think what's been really interesting, listening to all of the interviews from the athletes as they come off the water, is that they've all come off and they've left nothing out there on the water. So despite sort of ups and downs throughout the season for Hannah and having her back into the squad very recently, she's very happy with her result, and that's all we can ever ask of these athletes.
The single scull is kind of the ultimate event, isn't it? You're by yourself, you're out there, there's no one to make the calls, there's no one to steer, there's no one to help you along to set the rhythm. It's you. I think it's one of the toughest, the most barest you're going to race is a single scull. And Hannah did an exceptional job, 5th at the World Championships against actually a very tough field. Florian out front was so zippy. I just thought at one point Emma was going to row back through her through the third 500, and it just never happened. The Dutch woman just kept that relentless pace and was just faster every stroke. There was no coming back for Emma. So I think Hannah to be up there, to be in that final, is very, very promising. From the season she's had, we've not seen her at the past few races. She's been injured and ill and not been around. So she pulled out of Henley. We've not really seen her since then. I think it's a great step on.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose the crown, the highlight of the whole women's sculling World Championships, Erin, was that gold medal from our lightweight women's double scull, Emily Craig and Imogen Grant. I mean, they were just stupendous. They were incredible. They won by, I think, Clearwater in the end and just dominated, hit the front in the first 500 and dominated from start to finish as they have all season long.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. And I just think they're both phenomenal athletes. They are individually and then together, they're just something pretty special. I mean, Imogen literally has gone from sweeping, doing, training to be a doctor, easy really, jumped straight in, then did the single at Henley, into the light double. And I think it just really shows like the unit they've been building over the last couple of years has made a real difference. And big shout out as well to Maddie Arlett as well. She was racing in the lightweight single and she's really been a part of that project and keeping it going, racing in the double with Emily earlier in the season. And they're just, really exciting. And I think everyone's hearts were crushed when they just lost out that medal in Tokyo last year. And that's obviously, put some fire in their bellies and really kind of motivated them. And I think it means a lot. And I'm really proud of them.
So, Mark, we'll stick with the women's squad, move over to the sweep side of the women's squad. With the women's 4 racing and the women's pair racing. And after a strong European Championships performance, I think we're all really excited to see what Esme and Emily could do in the women's pair. They come away with a 5th place performance and gold, similar to the Chinese quad surprise. It was New Zealand's Grace Prendergast and Kerry Williams. And it just shows, well, there's still a little bit of work to be done if they're going to be challenging that top pair for the World Championships.
But I think that's part of the excitement, isn't it? You've got the ultimate or the all-class New Zealand crew in the women, so they've dominated that event. And I think to go up against them, to really suss out where you are, is a great place to be. They've come 5th. I'm sure they'd be really, probably everybody wants a minor medal when their first one as a unit, but I think they'd be quite, happy with that. And also, if you've got the depth of the team as well, that women's 4 winning, there's just so much opportunity over the next 2 years, and those kind of seats everybody's going to be fighting for because there is so much success from this World Championships.
Yeah, certainly. And we talked, Jess, in the pre-brief about the depth of the squad and highlighting that, yes, there is a potential for an 8 to be coming along at some stage for the women's squad. But at the moment, what they're doing very well is this pair and this 4 both challenging the best in the world. And actually, our women's 4 is the very best in the world. Gold medal for them by 2 seconds, an unbeaten season for them, and starting to create a bit of a dynasty. It's almost a little bit early to start using that word, but when you've had the success that the men's 4 have had over the years, you want the women's 4 to have the exact same success and more.
Oh, I mean, that women's 4, I mean, I'm a bit biased because I'm a sweep rower. I'm a GB women's sweep rower. Loved it. And there was a point actually where they got put under pressure, which we've not really seen that much this year. There was a little point when I was watching it, and through the K, I thought, oh, these crews have stuck with them. This is a real test of who they are as athletes and who they are as a crew. And they just soaked it the hell up and they started moving away. That was a classy performance from a very strong crew. They were so within their race. You watched them cross the finish line and they're almost a bit in shock. I think Rebecca Shorten is an unbelievable rower. I think her stroking that boat, coming back from a 4th place in Tokyo last year, and she's got behind, the strength of her middle pair, very, very strong. And then you've got Heidi Long in that bow seat, kind of almost tapping it along, probably making the calls, telling people where they are. It's a really, really strong unit. And for them to be world champions, we have won this event before, but not when it's been Olympic boat class, is... we talk about it so much last year, and we did lots of interviews talking about all those 4th places, and it's coming to fruition. 4th place isn't a bad thing, and the athletes were there, the strength was there, the talent was there, the program's just aligned, and we've seen that with these gold medals.
Yeah, we certainly are. And just before we move on and discuss the men's sweep squad, worth noting a couple of strong B final performances as well, first of which came from Dale Flockhart at his first senior world championships. He came 5th overall in the B final, 11th in the lightweight men's single scull, and our women's double scull 2nd in the B final and 8th overall. So again, excited to see how they respond from this World Championships and building over the next 10, 11, 12 months or so towards next year's World Championships. But Mark, we will dive straight into the men's sweep, and we'll start with the men's pair. Tom George, Ollie Wynne Griffith, a bronze medal that they came through, hard-earned bronze medal, rowing through Serbia to snatch it, with Romania getting gold and Spain the silver medal. And I think what was quite interesting, listening to them talking afterwards, they were saying, when we started this project at the beginning of the year, they'd have been delighted with a bronze medal, but as the season's gone on, they've moved the wrong goalposts. But I think to get any medal at the World Championships is a very strong result, and I think it just shows how far this pair has developed over the year, that they're still not quite happy with it.
Yeah, I think that shows the depth of the squad again. You potentially knew the other boats were going to do very well, and I'm sure they wanted that kind of to be on the top spot. But I think, they've had a really good season. They've kind of progressed. They won Henley, they won Lucerne, so they've been really at the forefront, and maybe it was just one too many big races. But the Romanians rode exceptionally well in that race. They took it on very early, and it was really interesting that the style of the kind of pair, the 4 and the 8, they kind of don't blast off. It's kind of more relaxed, kind of to get into pace. And the pair just got left out. And just the problem that when I watched it was that they just lost contact. And once you lost contact and they had that look, I think it was Tom, the kind of writings on the wall. But I'm sure they'll learn from that to not let that contact be broken. But yeah, it was a great race, but the Romanians were exceptional. I thought they rode exceptionally well in that final. And the Spanish are just gutsy. I love watching them because you never know what you're going to get. And it was pure guts.
Aaron, we'll move on to the men's 4. And again, another brilliant gold medal. But there's a little asterisk next to this one, I suppose. We had super sub David Ambler filling in for Matt Aldridge for medical reasons throughout the World Championship. So we're wishing Matt all the very best for his recovery. But Mark's already mentioned a couple of times just the depth of this whole squad. And it's highlighted there. Someone stepping in and racing the whole way through the World Championships, and the British crew still being the favourite for the gold medal and delivering is superb.
Yeah, my heart was with Matt. Obviously, I was been watching this weekend, just absolutely desperate to be there, and I think it's a little bit easier being at home than literally being in your hotel and watching your mates go and race. So kind of huge empathy out to Matt, but also incredible. And I think this is a really great example of, as Mark was saying, sort of the depth in the squad, but also the mentality and the culture that's really starting to develop. You can see in the way they're talking post-race, in their social media and all this sort of thing. It really is quite a one-team atmosphere, which is really great. And, for Dave to just kind of come in, step into the group and basically, add the value in the way that he did. And as you said, they still be the favourites and then go out and perform. God, huge kudos to him and real respect for the whole team for kind of all supporting that mentality throughout the season, which enables these things to happen when things are out of your control.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jess, I know how much you love racing an 8. It's the boat that you won your Olympic silver medal in. What did you make of the men's 8 gold medal performance and their season as a whole?
I think they've really, written their own story. They've put themselves out there, and all season they've looked untouchable. Today, the Dutch put them under a bit of pressure towards that finish line, but that kind of shows the class of a crew. If you can still win when everyone's throwing the kitchen sink at you, I wouldn't really care for one by a centimetre or a length. Still winning it, you still got a gold medal. They're absolutely stand out, and you can't say enough about the depth of that men's team, the whole team really, but the men's team to win the 4, the 8, won a medal in the quad, medal in the pair, medal in the single. It's really hard to do that across the board. Go and look at other countries and you really push certain boats. You don't spread everything and win medals and everything, and the British team really have this time around. I think there's been a bit of a gap, and I think in the past 6 years there's not been a world champion, or this Olympiad, sorry, this year coming back, there's not been any world champions in the men's team. There's been no one to look at. There's no one to understand how to do it. And now you've got 13 of them walking through the door in Caversham in a few weeks. So they really put themselves out there, and I thought they looked and rode really, really well.
And I just want to add to that, I think the way they're rowing, the whole team is, I'd say probably across the board, is probably the best I've ever seen us do as a team. And I think that's probably why they can move people in and out, and still put on those great performances. And yeah, the 4 and the 8 were, I can't remember a 4 rowing that efficiently and technically well that I've ever seen us put on the water. We've been successful, but actually rowing really efficiently and using their strength, that was definitely the most technical I've ever seen.
Yeah, Aaron, on the whole, it's been a phenomenal World Championships, as we've alluded to over the past 20 minutes or so. But the goals now shift for the next big block of winter training. And actually, the priorities for the next season is getting as many boats as possible qualified for the Olympic Games in 2024. And I suppose it puts a little bit more pressure onto the squads for the next big block of training. So how are you guys going to be approaching the next 3, 4, 5 months down the line to ensure that I suppose that you're not just challenging for gold, silver, bronzes, but actually making sure that we get as many boats as possible into Olympic and Paralympic qualifying positions.
Yeah, it's a weird one, to be honest, because, you know, we've got this post-games late World Championships that we've mentioned already. So, you know, we're pretty late in the season. It's the end of September. Normally, coming into a qualification regatta, we would have already been back at training for a couple of weeks. So I think it's going to be a real kind of trust in, you know, the new setup that we've got in the coaches and the leadership team, that essentially people do need their rest. They do need that mental break, particularly some of those new athletes who didn't go to Tokyo. They've been training for over a year now because they started back at the start of September. They need that break, but then it's sort of put the foot down and let's get going, because we've got to look after each other. They've got to kind of keep this culture going. But basically, you've got to get eyes on the prize. And thinking really about qualification, if you're targeting medals, then you're targeting qualification. So to some extent, you don't want to be looking at the back end of those qualification spots. You want to be looking right at the top of the field. How can I get myself on the top of the podium? And if you do that, then you're going to be ensuring you're getting those qualification spots as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark, very quickly, your crew of the regatta, British crew or international crew? Who stood out for you?
Well, that's a tough one because we had so much success. I think personally, because, you know, I'd done some work with the Light Women's Double prior to kind of Tokyo, to see them cap it off and, you know, be number one in that event, for me, yeah, shed a little tear to that. That was pretty special. I think the crew of the event, as I kind of mentioned, the French men's double was just outstanding to watch.
Jess, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased, but the women's four, British women's four, I loved. And actually, of international crews, the Romanian women's eight always have a place in my heart, and I loved what they did in the final. Boshed it and won.
And Erin, who stood out for you as the crew of the regatta?
I'm going to have to shout out Ben Pritchard, because I've just sort of been side by side with him over the last kind of 3-4 years, and I'm just so proud of him. He just put the race together of his dreams, and yeah, brilliant.
So there we have it. The 2022 World Rowing Championships have come to an end. Great Britain will be returning to Caversham with 12 medals, 7 gold, 1 silver and 4 bronze. They top the medal table, and it has been a truly fantastic summer of racing, not just at this senior level, but at under-23s and at juniors as well. That will bring to an end briefly the international season, but back here, the domestic season is well and truly underway, with the likes of Sculler's Head has already happened on the Tideway. We'll be looking ahead to much more head racing over the coming weeks and months. But my huge thank you to Erin, Jess and Mark for joining me for this edition of The Debrief, and we'll see you all very, very soon.